Hello and welcome to this episode of the CCN Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Medore. Today is July 17th, 2015, and the price of Bitcoin can only be described as a pogo stick, resting sneakily at $275, down from an earlier high of over $300. But more on that in a second from Funkenstein the Dwarf, our resident Bitcoin trader and market analyst, coming to you from xbt.social. After that, stay tuned to hear an interview with Sal Paradise, a co-conspirator in the Woodcoin project, which is not to be confused with the WoodShares project. The WoodShares project is a counterparty asset, and Woodcoin is a cryptocurrency with some very important differences from Bitcoin.
Weekly market roundup on ccn.la. My name is Funkenstein the Dwarf, and today is Friday, 17 July 2015. In today's roundup, Bitcoin, Japan, China, the Fed, and Greece. Now, with the Bitcoin market, it hit a 6-month high near $320 on Sunday and began declining from a technically overbought condition, and by Monday morning a coincidental Eurogroup announcement about a Greek bailout deal saw a sell-off to $280. A correction followed, and on Tuesday the third wave of decline began, culminating in a market low of $272 earlier today, Friday. Now, $272 is a technical support level that is provided by the one-day chart's 20-period moving average. It's interesting to note that the Chinese yuan exchanges like BTC China and Huobi found support below this 20-period moving average level at the one-day chart's 100-period moving average 10% envelope. So that is some discrepancy there, and we'll keep an eye on that. The decline cannot confidently be said to be over at this time. Some traders still feel that 250 and 230 are possible. Fortunately, we do not have to wonder about it. The one-day chart's 20 MA and 20-period moving average provides a convenient bellwether, and we wait to see what the market does in relation to this level over the weekend. It's currently at $272. If price stays above it and then retakes the $300 level, we could think that advance has resumed. If price drops below this 20-period moving average in the one-day chart, 272, then decline is implied in the next level, $250, and then $230 is also possible, but $250 will be the first stop. In the case of continuation of advance, in other words, price stays above 272 and then retakes $300, the first level of resistance will be the $320 previous high, and then above that $360 and the psych level $400. On the international stage, the Bank of Japan's Governor Kuroda said in a press statement on Wednesday that he is not so concerned about Greece as he is about China. Now, readers will know that there is some tension between Japan and China in the South China Sea. And on the economic front, the two countries are trade rivals. Japan has upped the stakes by introducing an epic quantitative easing program seeking to print 80 trillion yen in less than a decade in order to devalue the yen and make Japan's exports more attractive. Now, China can do the same, but it's holding back on the QE card. One can imagine that the triple whammy combination of a faltering housing market, a faltering stock market, collapsing credit markets may see the printing presses switched on in the coming months. On the domestic front, China's ban on selling of stocks and its central bank assistance to margin brokers saw last week the country's stock index rally for 3 days into this week before resuming decline on Tuesday and across the board. The Shanghai Composite Index is just above 4,000 after dropping below 3,800 points today, Friday. Greece. Even after being offered a referendum so that they could vote no to austerity, the people of Greece have gotten more austerity, more taxes, longer working lives and less health care. You would think that the Eurogroup and Greece's creditors, the IMF, ECB and European Commission, would see fit to have a sustainable solution in a country racked by unemployment before imposing conditions that give most Greeks no option but to leave Greece for other EU member states. Yet, as revealed by Barclays in a report 2 weeks ago, more than a third of the IMF's running costs are payrolled by Greek loan repayments. In that case, I guess you can see why the plight to the majority of Greece has little bearing in the matter. You can get your daily Bitcoin price analysis reports presented by Bitcoin Trading Consortium xbt.social, and on Mondays you can read the Global Economic Outlook for a report that gives some perspective on market developments. This is Benzin Kausan for ccn.la.
Benzin will be appearing on this show every week, just like you just heard. If you have any questions for Benzin, please send them to me or send them to him directly, and we will make sure that he addresses them on next week's episode. The following interview is more of a discussion between like minds than it is a typical interview, although we do discuss a little bit of the justification for woodcoin's existence. I expressly forbid you from buying or chopping any woodcoins after hearing this interview, unless it is of your own volition and in your own best interests, or just because you want to. Please do not let this interview influence your decision in any way. What I mean to say is that, as with all things in cryptocurrency, I'm tainted in some way, and in this case I'm deeply tainted. I'm a supporter of woodcoin. That doesn't make the topic any less interesting, but it does make it necessary that you know before you go on to listen to the interview and perhaps take your own interest in woodcoin. For reference, if you hear the following sound, that meant that part had been cut out and we didn't need it. 6 years ago, the great wizard Satoshi Nakamoto delivered Middle-earth from the clutches of the counterfeiters by publicizing the proof-of-work algorithm in the first implementation of a public cryptocurrency, Bitcoin. Our current work, Woodcoin, is an experimental cryptocurrency which is built in much the same way as Bitcoin, sharing in the codebase with Bitcoin and two of its successors, Litecoin and Quark. The objective of Woodcoin is to take a very long view and design a coin that remains viable and stable extremely far into the future. So we're here today to talk to the developer of Woodcoin. Well, technically he's not the developer. The developer is technically a short man by the name of Funkenstein the Dwarf. But we do have Sal Paradise, his only human representative, on the line here today. How you doing, Sal?
I'm doing great. Paul, my lord, that's a great introduction. Thank you for repeating that. So,
Sal, how'd you get into cryptocurrency, and what justifies you getting into it? What piqued your interest? Are you some kind of math wizard, or are you just the?
On both of those levels, I do study with some wizards in mathematics and the rest of the human world here, the scientists, and I'm also a follower of the other peoples of Middle Earth, and I'm also just interested in keeping a pace with the innovations in the world around me. And it seems to me that this is absolutely essential to be aware of what's going on in terms of exchange commodities and how they are changing in the world around us.
So, tell me about WoodShares. Woodcoin. So, actually, no. Tell me about WoodShares. Is that some kind of Woodcoin altcoin? What is WoodShares?
I know nothing about WoodShares. What are you talking about?
Cryptocurrencies that are supposedly backed by real assets, such as WoodShares, which I believe is backed by some kind of forestry initiative or something like that. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts in general are that the claims of something being backed are generally mistaken, either fraudulently or simply through incompetence. I think a bond is something perhaps that is backed, and an equity is backed. We have some kind of arrangement where we are expecting something in exchange for something else, so that's backing. But I would shy away from that in terms of what I've learned about what money is from first 7 years here. And we could talk about broader finances and equity and bonds and IOUs and all the different interesting financial arrangements. But if you want to talk about pure money, currency, and we shouldn't be talking about backing something.
The value is only ever going to be what the other person takes it to be.
Yeah.
My $10 bill is only worth $10 to you because you believe it is. Otherwise, it wouldn't be worth anything to you. It's just a piece of paper.
Yeah, it's true, and I believe I can still get a beer for that down the road here, maybe even two.
And it's really that belief, and it's really that belief that is driving you to accept the $10 bill, not that, and even in a previous time, it really wasn't about the fact that they believed they could go get gold for it, because gold would have no utility in their daily life. Like going to the store and procuring groceries with the money was a much more attractive proposition.
Yeah. The question du jour I've heard asked is what backs gold. So
and the answer to that would be utility, but not everyone has a use of gold. Not all of us are building electronics or...
Woodcoin is not designed to be anything that is backed or physically tied to any of our good friends, the trees or the logs or anything related to Arbor Day. But it is named after them for the wisdom, general admiration we have for creatures which create our oxygen. And
so let me get this straight. What happened was you were in Amsterdam drinking absinthe, and Funkenstein the Dwarf appeared to you and said, "I have a mission." Or how did this come about? Like, why Woodcoin?
If you talk to the dwarfs, it's a multiple-headed story. One head of the story is that it's a research project, prototype, if you will, in a longer efforts to understand public currencies, to understand Bitcoin, and to be able to make proper moves in the times that are given to us. That's a broader context. The specifics of the coin are about introducing three particular changes, one of which is the use of the Skein hash function, or skein, as I believe it is officially pronounced, but I've heard it mispronounced, I think, more often than pronounced correctly. It has a lot of attractive properties, and it was not being used in its pure form for mining, and so we went with that. We went with it to get it going. Could talk more about that, but I'm going to continue with the three. The second one is the which is really the primary economic driver of Woodcoin, is the release schedule. And the release schedule is quite important in a lot of coins. It's really determines the shape of the economics of the coin. If you, for example,
as I understand it, with Woodcoin, every block we have a reduction in block reward. Is that correct?
That is correct. Exactly. Yes. There's every 2 minutes there's a new block, and the new block is slightly less than the one before. So it's a smooth decrease rather than a series of halvings, which is what we're more familiar with from Bitcoin and Litecoin coming up soon with a halving. Namecoin just had one. And then there's some other coins that do a gradual release as well. For example, the crypto note coins have a gradual decrease. However, what's also important, other than whether it's in large moves or gradually, is the shape. The shape of the Bitcoin reduction curve is exponential. The amount decreases by half every 4 years, and so it's very quick. In other words,
that's because they have a set maximum. So.
Yeah, but also because they approach that maximum very quickly. In other words, we've already had half the coins in Bitcoin released, so that's fast. compared to, the fact that you expect it to be going for much longer than that, but also in that some people haven't even heard of this currency yet, and already half the coins that ever will be minted are out. That's quick. Woodcoin takes a different approach. The half of all coins to be released won't be out for another 100 years or so.
And this is because of the block rewards continual diminishing.
Yeah, and in particular, they diminish logarithmically. So in other words, it's a very simple formula. Every block is worth 1 million divided by the block height. So it's a harmonic series. The block reward reduces like you have the series 1/2, 1/3, 1/4, 1/5, 1/6. That each fraction gets smaller every time, but gets smaller by a smaller amount. And if you would compare that to the geometric series, which is 1/2, 1/4, 1/8, 1/16, you see that we're dropping off much more quickly with that geometric series. It goes 1 over the power of 2, and that is how the Bitcoin reward curve goes down. You only make that step every 4 years to go to the next power of 2. It still is a geometric series. It's a
well, and what we see with that, what we've seen, is a mining profitability paradigm where miners have to consider whether the market is going to continue to reward them when they're receiving half the reward. One day they're making this much, the next day they're making half as much. They have to factor that into their operations, and so it could potentially, especially down the road, affect the security of the Bitcoin network in a big way if miners essentially couldn't afford to mine.
Absolutely, you're very, very right, and it's certainly an issue when you get down to when you have no more Coinbase rewards is another issue. You have to rely fully on fees, and right now we're getting like less than 1% of the block reward is fees. Now, as that block reward goes down, you have less and less incentive to mine, which means less and less security against double spending.
Now, do miners, or I guess we call them woodcutters in Woodcoin, do they receive transaction fees?
They do. Yep. There's there's every transaction needs a fee. The fees currently are quite low. Fees currently are the blocks are mostly empty, in fact, of transactions at this point in the Woodcoin network. Very little traffic, and so it's mostly Coinbase rewards, which are incentivizing the woodcutters to continue chopping blocks.
So that's a problem you were addressing by starting Woodcoin, was what you see as a potential and serious issue for Bitcoin with its plummeting way of dealing with the block reward.
Exactly. Yes, the plummeting value of block reward seems like it could have been done another way, and I was curious as to how the harmonic series approach would look. There's still some big questions in terms of how it's going to look. People are still arguing about different block sizes on the Bitcoin network. People are still arguing about how the fee structures should be enforced. So I think these will remain an issue. And there's certainly similar issues could apply to the Woodcoin network, but the issue of maintaining a profitable chopping will not be one in terms of the Coinbase reward will continue to exist for the foreseeable future. It's got a much longer schedule with our harmonic series. We don't get to our 0 point for something like 300 million years. So that's not going to be an issue on the Woodcoin network.
To repeat my disclosure at the beginning of the episode, I am a wood chopper. I've been involved in Woodcoin since the very beginning, since I think before I was even writing for CCN, and so I think that the recent rewards have been over 6 Woodcoins, but when I started, they were over 40 per block. So I guess what you're saying is that it's going to be somewhere between 6 and 1 wood coin per block for a very long time to come.
Yes, yes. And once we reach block 1 million, the reward will be 1 wood coin per block. And as we get to block 10 million, the reward will be 0.1 wood coin per block. It goes down very slowly, but it does continue to go down. And so the idea is that you always have more of an incentive to chop wood today than you do to chop it tomorrow.
So we've covered why wood coin should exist. You know, you are specifically doing research in an area that you felt was what did not receive enough attention from the original Bitcoin developer. Are there any other, major innovations coming to Woodcoin? I noticed that you were talking about releasing some new wallet files, and I guess maybe in the future looking at some kind of SPV-like system. But really, I think it's early days because the market cap of Woodcoin I think stands at around 10 grand. So
yeah, there is one more thing I should probably mention is the third point going to come to, which is that coin uses a slightly different elliptic curve for signing transactions. Still uses the same elliptic curve digital signature algorithm. However, the underlying curve is not the SECP 256K1 curve, which most altcoins use, but it is a prime number based elliptic curve, and it's actually one of the curves which was recommended by a number of financial institutions. When you have to choose a digital signature algorithm and you've chosen to use the elliptic curve system, you need to actually select a curve on which your points will lie, your points being your private key. Curve that Satoshi, the great wizard, chose was one which he claimed was lying around at the time, and it's a K in it stands for one of the great innovators in elliptic curve cryptography, Koblitz. The SECP 256K1. The K is for Koblitz. So the Woodcoin does not use the Koblitz curve. It uses a curve which is one of the most commonly used elliptic curves, and some authors have opined that it has various advantages. Others have said that it has disadvantages. Funkenstein chose this one because it was different and still looked secure. It's slightly of a pain in the neck if you're writing a wallet functionality issue, because you'll need to implement this curve. For example, for your Android wallet, for if you go to woodaddress.org, you'll see exactly what changes need to be made. You have a wallet functionality there, wallet generator. The thing about these is that sometimes the altcoins are viewed sort of as backups. So, if something were to go wrong with SECP 256K1,
all of the altcoins would be broken.
Yeah.
Or like many of them would be anyway.
And
that's a really good point.
A lot of people using Woodcoin.
and other coins. Is Woodcoin the first to... Well, it's really hard to say, I guess.
It is hard to say. CryptoNote uses a different curve as well. Other than that, though, I'm not aware of any other coins that use other curves.
So the litmus test for a cryptocurrency in the age of Bitcoin really is it something we can't use Bitcoin for? And I guess in the case of Woodcoin, it's a lot more about developing the technology further than it is about trying to compete with or even really serve the same purposes as Bitcoin. Like it's far more of a project than it is a currency. Is that right?
I guess I have to agree with you in at least in the present. However, there are reasons to diversify, and there are first of all, if there were only Bitcoin, you would have a very fragile ecosystem with cryptocurrency. It would be fragile in the sense that a denial of service attack or any number of other relatively low-cost attacks would shut down the entire system.
We've seen that recently, I think, with
I've seen a little bit of that.
with spam attacks. I personally experienced my first failed confirmation, and I was a little scared on what to do. I wound up creating a raw transaction and copying the data from the old one over and resubmitting it, basically, and that made it work. But I don't foresee that as being very user friendly for someone new.
Yeah, and the altcoins and other coins in general basically provide a backup. You can always get your payments done that you need to, and have value in case there's some network shortage problem on the main network. So I believe these coins have value in that alone, which in a way contradicts my earlier paradigm of can you use Bitcoin for this? It's the litmus test.
I think that anybody researching Woodcoin right now as a result of this, they're going to find that it's sort of happened in an organic way, similar to the way that Bitcoin's growth happened. Like the addition to the exchanges was not a huge initiative by the Woodcoin community or yourself or anyone. It's something that happened because the exchanges wanted it to happen. And then a lot of the features that have gone into the wallets, a lot of the things that have been done over time, it's all just happened because there was a need of it or because people wanted it to happen. But initially it was just really an experiment, as it says even in the white paper. It's just an experiment, but it's turning into more of a reality. I think that's to be appreciated about it, that it's not like a specific effort to succeed, but at the same time, people that participated, they have some value if they're still holding some of their wood coins. Like the value seems to grow in comparison to other coins, I guess, especially. What's the future look like for you and Woodcoin development in general?
That's a great question. There's a lot of stuff still up in the air in terms of how long it will take people to start using cryptocurrencies that will affect Woodcoin quite a lot. If Bitcoin stays at today's price range for another year, then things could stall out for a certain amount of time. If things heat up or cool down, that will also affect us. I think from one thing that I'm most concerned about is simply providing a nice, stable network that works for people who do want to build on it, to use it, and to make sure that we have a wood cutting community, because that's what keeps the coin alive, is the choppers.
And so we do have one at woodcutting.club. I myself was visited by Funkenstein one night and was directed, on he was very hostile, I'll say, terms to get off of Bitcoin talk and have our own community. And so at woodcutting.club, users can interact with woodcoiners, which are very few in number to this day, I think.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, I'm open to suggestion. I have I'm rather passionate about the cryptocurrencies, and if Funkenstein, you, Paul, anyone else who has some ideas, I believe that there's some interested and capable community of people who can turn them around. So I think there'll be an interesting future ahead for us. One other point maybe I should make is that from being involved with this coin, it's given me an interesting perspective on how these things evolve, and one thing about it is how really lifelike it strikes me. Is these things become totally out of any person's control as soon as they're running,
right.
And they just it's got a life of its own. So we could try to sort of shepherd it and push it in various directions, and obviously people make an impact on it. But in terms of the blocks coming in, the heart is beating. The thing is really an independent organism. It's very remarkable.
Right, and for all you know, there's just the whole network is just some guy in Arkansas running 7 or 8 computers in his office.
Is that what's going on? Now I know the secret.
No, I'm just kidding, but that could be in the case of some altcoins. It'd just be, a few nodes are mining, and
Yep.
and it could even be supporting $500,000 in value at times.
You can count the amount of hash. That's something you can see and prove.
So people can find out about Woodcoin at woodcoin.org. They can join the community at woodcutting.club, and they can reach you how?
Well, you can reach me through Funkenstein at woodcoin.org.
He's got you handling his emails now too?
Well, no, he'll get me what needs to come to me. I don't get my own office, but I get some hand-me-downs. Logaddress.org is another site to look at. I got that wrong earlier. Sorry about that.
No, don't be. Okay, great. Well, thank you for your time today, Sal Paradise.
Hey, I really appreciate your interest and your encouragement.
And I guess that's all for this week's edition of the CCN podcast. My name is Paul Medore, signing off. You may have noticed this week that we didn't have any music, and that's simply because no one sent us any. If you've got any musical talents, or your friends have any musical talents, and you'd like to hear your song showcased on our show, just shoot me a line at paul.madore@cryptocoinsnews.com, or hit me up on Twitter at PHMCCN. Love to work with you. For more about me, check out phm.link, and for the latest in cryptocurrency news, always visit ccn.la first. Have a great weekend, folks.